Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your AEW Dynamite post-show. Starting off the night, man, we got Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin teaming up to take on Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia in a Tornado tag match. I thought it was a good match. It was a good start to Dynamite, back-and-forth matchup between both teams with Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin keeping the pace of the match. Darby goes to the outside, hits a coffin drop off the balcony, taking out the Death Riders. Yuta then hits a splash off the top on Orange Cassidy through a table. Darby then hits a code red in the middle of the ring for a near fall, followed by Orange Cassidy hitting a diving DDT. Darby capitalizes on this by hitting a coffin drop off the top rope for a near fall. Orange Cassidy then hits an orange punch, sending Garcia to the outside. Darby then applies a scorpion deathlock on Wheeler Yuta in the middle of the ring. Referee sounds for the bell. And your winners of the match due to submission are Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. Hats off to Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a number one contenders tag team matchup, if you will. It's a fatal four-way tag team to crown a new number one contender for the AEW Tag Team Championships. It is the Young Bucks versus FTR versus Jet Speed versus Jurassic Express. The match itself, I thought, was a decent match. Back and forth matchup with all teams involved, with Jurassic Express keeping the pace of the match. Luchasaurus hits a chokeslam on FTR, followed by Bayley hitting a moonsault to the outside. The Young Bucks then land multiple super kicks in the middle of the ring, followed by FTR hitting a shatter machine in the middle of the ring. The Young Bucks then hit a BTE trigger in the middle of the ring for a near fall. Luchasaurus hits a moonsault to the outside. Kevin Knight goes to the top rope, hits a UFO splash off the top rope, but FTR end up hitting a shatter machine on Kevin Knight in the middle of the ring. Pins for the 3. And your winners of the match and new number one contenders for the AEW Tag Team titles are FTR. Hats off to FTR for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we had the Don Callis Family Summit. Don Callis comes out to the ring with the Don Callis family. Rocky Romero grabs the microphone and says Don Callis family is the best faction in professional wrestling, which, no offense, I kind of call bullshit on that. Romero then presents a painting to Don Callis. In the painting was pretty much the entire Don Callis family. Alexander then grabs the microphone. He hypes up the Don Callis family. Fletcher then talks about the Don Callis family oath. After that, Kyle Fletcher is quickly interrupted by Takeshita. Takeshita comes out to the ring. Him and Okada get face-to-face in the middle of the ring. Don's trying to de-escalate the situation, but Don Callis says the family succeeds with what he says. Don then praises Takeshita. Callis then wants Takeshita to shake hands with Okada. Okada then looks like he was going to shake Takeshita's hand, but instead flicks off Takeshita. And then he says Don Callis wants a tag team matchup with Okada and Takeshita on Collision. And it looks like Okada and Takeshita will face Anthony Bowens and Max Caster on Collision. Some interesting stuff there between the Don Callis family. Moving on from that, we go into another match of the night. It's pretty much a rematch from last week. It's Kyle O'Reilly taking on Jon Moxley. It's a little bit of a grudge match here between O'Reilly and Moxley. The match itself was a good match. Back and forth matchup between O'Reilly and Moxley, with O'Reilly and Moxley both exchanging in the middle of the ring. Moxley then hits a pile driver on O'Reilly for a near fall in the middle of the ring. O'Reilly then applies an ankle lock on Moxley, but the hold is quickly broken. O'Reilly then applies a guillotine chokehold on the outside. Referee sounds for the bell. And the match ends in a double countout. After the match, Marina Shafir gets in the ring. She attacks referee Aubrey Edwards. The Death Riders then attack O'Reilly. The Conglomeration are here as well. Orange Cassidy is standing in the ring. Mark Briscoe hands Orange Cassidy a microphone. And Cassidy announces that it will be the Conglomeration versus the Death Riders at Blood and Guts. Some interesting stuff there between the Conglomeration and the Death Riders. Moving on from that, we have the Women's Tag Team Tournament quarterfinal matchup. It is Jamie Hayter and Queen Aminata taking on the Sisters of Sin. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Aminata and Hayter keeping the pace of the match. Aminata and Sky Blue both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Tekla attacking Jamie Hayter ringside with the referee being distracted. This allows Sky Blue to hit the finish in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match and moving on in the Women's Tag Team Tournament are the Sisters of Sin. Hats off to the Sisters of Sin for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne backstage. Looks like Ford is injured. Her arm was in a sling. Ford announces that she is out indefinitely with an injury which pretty much forces Penelope Ford out of the tournament. So Megan Bane's looking for a new partner, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Marina Shafir walks up on Megan Bayne, says that she is listening. So it looks like we might get Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir teaming up in this women's tag team tournament. Some interesting stuff there between Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of AEW's Dynamite. It is a fatal 4-way to crown a new number one contender for the AEW World title. It is Samoa Joe taking on Bobby Lashley versus Ricochet versus Hook. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Joe, Lashley, Ricochet, and Hook. With Hook and Joe both exchanging in the middle of the ring, but Samoa Joe was keeping the pace of the match. Joe ends up hitting a devastating power slam on Hook in the middle of the ring. Joe and Lashley then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Lashley hitting a Dominator on Ricochet for a near fall. Ricochet then gets up, goes to the top rope, hits a shooting star press for a near fall. Hook then applies a red rum on Ricochet, but the hold is broken by Samoa Joe. Lashley then hits a spear on Samoa Joe for a near fall. Ricochet then hits Lashley with a chair shot. Lashley then chases after Ricochet. This allows Joe to apply a coquina clutch in the middle of the ring. And your winners of the match, or winner of the match, and new number one contender for the AEW World title is Samoa Joe. Hats off to Samoa Joe for getting the win in the match. After the match, the Ops are here to celebrate with Samoa Joe. Tony Schiavone is in the ring as well. Schiavone announces that it will be, in fact, Samoa Joe versus Adam Page for the AEW World title at Full Gear. Schiavone announces a contract signing for the match. Then all of a sudden, a bunch of people in costumes come out to the ring. Ops end up beating up the people in the costumes. Samoa Joe then signs the contract, but then Joe mocks Adam Page. And then someone's in the ring dressed like Tony Schiavone, but all of a sudden it's Adam Page that's dressed like Schiavone, and Page ends up attacking Samoa Joe and the Ops, pretty much sending a message to Samoa Joe and the Ops. Couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, was it a decent show? Yes, it honestly wasn't that bad. Obviously, it wasn't 100% story-driven. Obviously, I have my issues with AEW storylines are concerned as far as creative. I don't think it's all that. But I like the progression of where they're going. Now, with that being said, am I a huge fan of Adam Page and Samoa Joe running it back for Full Gear? No, I'm not. I don't think it does anything for Samoa Joe, and quite frankly, I don't think it really does anything for Adam Page. And I think the reason why they're doing this and running it back is because there's nobody else, to be honest with you. I think right now AEW is severely hurting right now with injuries, to be honest with you. And I made this abundantly clear, Christ, man, for the past couple weeks. With the names like Swerve, Ospreay, Keith Lee, Adam Cole, Wardlow, just to name a few of the names that are out right now, it's hurting AEW. Andrade is taking a back seat right now. We might not see Andrade for a whole year by the time he steps into any ring, whether it's WWE or AEW for that matter. It's hurting AEW, and that's why I think they're running it back with Samoa Joe. To me, a lot of people that I've talked to are saying that this year's Full Gear is almost like a rip-off or I would say remix to what we got at Wrestle Dream, literally, especially when it pertains to Adam Page and Samoa Joe. There's nobody else, folks. At the end of the day, in that Fatal 4-Way matchup, you had the likes of Bobby Lashley, Samoa Joe, Ricochet, and Hook. And when this match was announced, it was already pretty much predictable who was going to win this matchup. With all due respect to Bobby Lashley, Ricochet, he's been tied up with the Gates of Agony. They've been doing this, 6-man tag team stuff, and they've been dealing with the Hurt Syndicate as of late. And clearly, after what happened last night, it looks like the Hurt Syndicate are not done with Ricochet and the Gates of Agony after what Ricochet did to Bobby Lashley. Then you look at Hook, where, honestly, for what it's worth, I haven't seen much of Hook, to be honest, since he's returned back to AEW. There's not a lot of singles matches that Hook has had on Dynamite, especially. And I didn't really see him as being a new number one contender for the AEW World title. I felt like they slotted in Ricochet and Hook just to put some names into a match and hoping for the best. Now, Bobby Lashley, to be honest with you, I've made comments about Bobby Lashley. I think Bobby Lashley should be in the main event scene. I think if he is, in fact, a free agent, Cedric Alexander would be a good idea to bring into the Hurt Syndicate. You could have Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin run the tag team division where Bobby Lashley is on the main event scene. And I think Bob would do great. I think Lashley would be great on the main event scene. I would love to see Bobby Lashley versus MJF to run that back with that whole storyline they had with MJF trying to join the Hurt Syndicate and how that all fell apart. And that's another name too, MJF. I mean, to me, I don't know what MJF is doing. I don't know if he's celebrating his honeymoon. I don't know if I know there was reports that he was filming a movie or shooting a movie. But I mean, if he was available for Full Gear, I think this would have been something easily that if AEW creatively had any thought process in their brain, I would have easily had that contract signing done for MJF and cashed in, and we would have had MJF versus Adam Page at Full Gear. And to be honest with you, I probably would have put MJF over in that matchup to possibly have MJF versus Bobby Lashley at World's End, or a rematch between Page and MJF at World's End. But that's not the case. And instead, we're getting Samoa Joe running it back with Adam Page, where, to be honest, man, I respect the hell out of Samoa Joe. I really do. I think Samoa Joe is one of those guys that's severely underrated in all of professional wrestling. But do I want to see Samoa Joe AEW World Champion again right now? No, I do not. I just don't. Right now, Adam Page is the guy, especially taking us into World's End. Now, MJF would be the guy, in my opinion, to dethrone Adam Page for the AEW World title right now. In my honest opinion, there's nobody else, man, to be honest. They're not building contenders. They're really not building new number one contenders. You could say, oh, well, Samoa Joe won and he's a new number one contender, but we're running it back literally from what we got at Wrestle Dream now with Full Gear, literally in a couple weeks. So it's like a remix to Wrestle Dream, man. And to be honest with you, it just goes to show you that injuries are really hindering this company. And Tony Khan doesn't really know how to build up younger stars to be top guys in this company. They're not building for the future, man. I would go back to even at Wrestle Dream. I mean, there was rumors and speculation that Wardlow was supposed to be the guy that would challenge Adam Page for the World Heavyweight title. But unfortunately, Wardlow got injured, and we don't know when we're going to see Wardlow again. It could be quite some time. I mean, hell, when Wardlow returned, and beating the shit out of Prince Nana, I mean, I think it was up to about a year, if not a year and some change, until we saw Wardlow up to that point. So, I don't know. Adam Cole was another mystery. I don't know if he's returning back to AEW. They're suffering a lot of injuries, man. A lot of people are taking off. Copeland's been off the scene since All Out. We have not seen Christian Cage since All Out. Cole has been out. Wardlow's out. Keith Lee has been out for, it seems like 2 years, if not more. It's hurting the company, man. I mean, Andrade, he returned back to AEW, but then with the non-compete clause from WWE, that's why we haven't seen Andrade on AEW television, and he's going to be sidelined for up to a year. So that's why we have not seen him in the Don Callis family. Now, speaking of the Don Callis family, I thought that was put together very well. The Don Callis Summit. I thought it was put together very well. I think it was one of the best things we've seen from the Don Callis family in quite some time. I thought it was put together very well. We're starting to slowly see the unravel here between Takeshita and Okada. And to be honest with you, it's one of the matches since Okada and Takeshita has been in AEW that I've been really wanting to see, as I wanted to see these two guys wrestle one-on-one. I think Takeshita is a guy who is really starting to come into his own. I think he's severely underrated. I mean, he can be the next Okada, to be honest with you. And that's a lot of praise, man. Okada is one of the best, one of the greatest tournament wrestlers of all time. And Takeshita, in my opinion, is slowly creeping up on becoming the next Okada, which is a lot of praise, to be honest with you. I think Takeshita and Okada at Full Gear would be amazing. And hopefully we are getting that where, Christ, man, you can do title versus title. And the reason why I'm saying that, I don't know the relationship that Okada has with New Japan. Obviously, Okada spent majority of his career over in New Japan. I think Tanahashi is the main booker over there in New Japan Pro Wrestling, so I don't know how the relationship is between Okada and Tanahashi. But even still, man, you can do something where you could have Okada versus Takeshita, title versus title at Full Gear, where it's the IWGP Championship on the line from Takeshita, and you got the Unified Championship from Okada, for AEW going into Full Gear, where Takeshita could go over, which I would choose Takeshita to beat Okada, and he walks out not only IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, but also Unified Champion. It would put Takeshita in a whole different echelon as far as what he can do in AEW. And he would be a huge star, especially beating someone of the likes of Okada. Because not for nothing, I mean, Okada's great, man, but he hasn't really done a whole hell of a lot with that Unified Championship. And for Okada, I can tell you this right now, confidently, we're not getting the same Okada now than what we got in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It is vastly different. The Okada that we're getting now is, he's pumping the brakes. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that, Okada was what he was, years ago in New Japan. Obviously, time changes. You get older, the body changes. I get it. But we're definitely not getting the same Okada than what we got in his prime in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Ain't no damn way in hell. I can say the same thing about Kenny Omega. So if that's what they're building towards, I would love to see Takeshita versus Okada, maybe title versus title at this year's Full Gear, because not for nothing, we need a sleeper match that can take over the show. And I think, to me, in my opinion, Takeshita and Okada could steal the show if they decide, being AEW and Tony Khan, to book this match, possibly title versus title. And I would put Takeshita over. I would 100% put Takeshita over, where he can carry the Unified Championship as well as the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Absolutely. Because it benefits both parties involved. It would benefit, obviously, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and honestly, it benefits AEW. Absolutely. So hopefully we do get that match. So I thought one of the best things of AEW Dynamite last night, hands down, was the Don Callis Family Summit, for sure. I thought it was put together very well. Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy making that announcement that at Blood and Guts in a couple weeks, we're going to get the conglomeration taking on the Death Riders in a Blood and Guts match. Now, I don't know who's going to be involved in that match. Obviously, we do have the conglomeration. I don't know if Darby Allin is also going to be involved in that matchup against the Death Riders. It hasn't been official yet. Am I 100% on board with the teams? I mean, it is what it is, man. Unfortunately, this shit between Darby Allin and Jon Moxley is far from over. And honestly, it should have been over a long time ago. It just feels stale. But I think they're going to run it back. I could see Darby in that matchup. I mean, Marina, and here's the wild card with all this is Marina Shafir, because I don't know if they're going to add the women involved with the men in this matchup for Blood and Guts. I don't know if the women are going to have their own Blood and Guts match. It's going to be hard to tell, because at this very moment, when all this is going on, specifically even Blood and Guts, in 2 weeks, we also have the women's tag team tournament going on at the same time, where Marina Shafir approached Megan Bayne to be her possible partner to go into this women's tag team tournament. So I don't know if we're going to see Marina in that conglomeration versus Death Riders Blood and Guts match, or even see the likes of Willow Nightingale. I don't know. Willow is also a part of the conglomeration, so I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, Marina joining Megan Bayne, that's going to tie her up into the tag team tournament. Willow is also a part of that AEW tag team tournament where she is teaming up with Harley Cameron. So it might just be, the guys from Conglomeration versus the guys from Death Riders. I don't know if we're actually going to get a women's Blood and Guts match. I don't know. Am I against it? No. If they have a women's Blood and Guts match, I think it'd be great. But I don't know if they're going to do that with the fact that we were also having the women's tag team tournament going on pretty much at the same time leading up to the Blood and Guts match. So there was that announcement from Orange Cassidy. I thought the Fatal 4-Way tag team match was not bad. I was kind of shocked with the outcome of the match, with FTR getting the win. I thought, for me, it was kind of like feeding a hot hand, man. I mean, it was either one or two teams I thought that were going to win that match, and that was going to be either the Young Bucks or, like I said, feeding the hot hand being Jurassic Express taking on Brodito. I would not be against at all seeing Jack Perry and Bandito in the middle of the ring, and seeing Brody King and Luchasaurus in the middle of the ring for the AEW tag team titles. Especially in a division right now in AEW that is lacking talent severely. We haven't seen the likes of Private Party, the Grizzled Young Veterans, if they're still called that. I think they're in Ring of Honor. So obviously AEW is hurting desperately for tag teams, to be honest. So to me, I was very shocked with FTR. Now, this also could be something. And this is the way my process is that maybe, just maybe, FTR somehow do get the win over Brodito at Full Gear. And then we get the return of Copeland and Cage to go after after FTR, after what they did to Beth Copeland at All Out. And we see maybe the likes of Copeland and Cage taking on FTR at World's End for the AEW World Tag Team titles, where Copeland and Cage would be successful and becoming the new AEW Tag Team Champions. That is something, if that's the route they're going, I'm not against it either. It's definitely something they can do. It's definitely something they can entertain. I just don't know what's going on right now with Copeland and Cage. We have not seen either one of those guys since All Out, especially what happened to best in the middle of the ring due to the hands of FTR. So if that's the route they're going, I'm all for it. But unfortunately, like I said, with injuries, it's hurting this company. For me personally, especially with the Adam Page shit, man, am I going to sit here and say that this title run for Adam Page has been great? No. Might be a hot take for a lot of people. I don't think this title run for Page has been all that great. Especially due to the fact that we're running it back with the same people twice now. Back to back, literally, with Samoa Joe and Adam Page. We had it at Wrestle Dream, and now we're having it at Full Gear. That's because there's nobody else that's a top guy to challenge Adam Page right now. To me, this would have been perfectly to slot in MJF. And MJF wins the title at Full Gear. He takes it into World's End, where we possibly could see MJF versus Bobby Lashley for the AEW World title. Absolutely. Or a possible rematch between Page and MJF. It's not taking anything away from Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's got all the talent in the world. Do I really want to see a Samoa Joe as the AEW World Champion? Absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. And not for nothing, with all due respect to Samoa Joe, I feel like he's kind of at the tailspin at the end of his career. To be honest with you. I think his career is slowly coming to an end at some point. It's not taking anything away from Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe, to me, is in the same kind of category as a Chris Jericho in AEW. To be honest with you. I don't know if there's really much for Samoa Joe to do in AEW at this point, to be honest. Rather than him sticking with the ops, pretty much running the trios division, and again, another division that's really lacking talent and depth for that division to even make it logical for AEW to even have that kind of division, because there's not many trios there. Like I said, man, they're hurting for talent right now. You look at, there's other trios with the Gun Club and Jay White. Well, Jay White's out. He might be out until 2026. And then there's also, I believe it's Colton Gunn, or one of the Guns, Austin or Colton, that's also out with injury. So now you have Juice Robinson, I think it's Austin Gunn, and, Ace Austin, who's now a part of this new Bullet Club Gold shit now. So, there's not really a whole lot going on, man. And, my thing with AEW, and it's always going to be that until it changes or until I see otherwise, man, is that creatively this company, it's frightening to watch, man, because you go from what we had in the first 3 years of AEW to what we got in the past 2.5 years. It's been vastly different, man. And I'm not sitting here saying in a good way. It's been progressively getting worse. That's why I said with AEW, I think, for me personally, honestly, with you guys, man, talking about AEW, for me personally, I take whatever I can get out of the show as a good thing. Like, for example, the Don Callis Family Summit, if it's the only good thing out of the show, I'm taking it. Because moments like that don't come along very often for AEW like it once was in the first 3 years of AEW. You know what I mean? And I'm not sitting here saying that every show for AEW, Dynamite, or Collision needs to be a 5-star show. I'm not sitting here saying that. I'm just looking for logic and a little bit of story for us to get excited for these pay-per-views. And to be honest, right now, man, I'm on the same boat how I felt about Wrestle Dream. That I don't know if it's worth the money paying for the pay-per-view. If I'm being abundantly honest. I told you guys for Wrestle Dream, the only match on paper that I was actually genuinely excited for was Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. And the reason why that was the promo back and forth where Moxley and Darby Allin were in this, like, prison, if you will, and they're talking between this plain glass window, and they're hyping this matchup, and then you see Pac come up behind Darby Allin and pretty much beat the piss out of Darby Allin, pretty much setting up this matchup between Moxley and Darby Allin at Wrestle Dream with the I Quit match. Which, again, even that match itself had a lot of people talking, and not necessarily in a good way. It was very controversial. A lot of people from the AEW side were trying to defend themselves. A lot of people were coming out in droves saying how pissed off and disappointed they were with that matchup with Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. Christ, man, Moxley was trying to drown Darby Allin in a 50-gallon aquarium tank. It just seemed kind of cringy, man. I don't know. I'm hoping that AEW can kind of get back to what brought them to the dance. And I know I say that a lot, and it sounds like a broken record, man, but I'm a firm believer, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And sometimes when you want to change shit, sometimes the change is not necessarily for the better. Sometimes it ends up being for the worst. And right now, I think AEW is a prime example of that theory, man. I just feel like, you figure AEW in the first 3 years, it'd be kind of rocky. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to find their footing. They're trying to figure shit out. and it will progressively get better over time. Bro, it's literally ass backwards, where the first 3 years were probably the best years of AEW's existence. Now, in these past 2 years, 2.5 years, it's progressively gotten worse over time, which is crazy, which also makes you believe, like, if shit doesn't change, honestly, how long is this company going to last? And honestly, for what it's worth, there's a lot of shit going on around this company or outside of AEW that has you wondering. For example, Time Warner and Warner Media, they're looking to sell their TV rights and streaming rights to another entity, whether it's, Netflix or Paramount Plus or what have you. So again, you had to ask yourself, well, if that sale does go through and Time Warner and Warner Media actually do get sold to another entity, whether it's Paramount or Netflix or ESPN or what have you, are that company that purchased Time Warner and Warner Media really going to be interested in keeping on the likes of an AEW product with their company? You know what I mean? Like, for example, if ESPN somehow buys the likeness rights for Warner Media or Time Warner and Warner Media, are they really going to want to be in work or working with the likes of AEW, knowing that they're literally working right now exclusively with WWE, specifically their PLEs? I don't know. I'd be very shocked and surprised that if ESPN were to buy the likes of Time Warner and Warner Media, they were willing to work with AEW on top of working with WWE. It might rub the shoulders the wrong way for WWE, to be honest, if they buy AEW or purchase Time Warner and bring AEW in as well. It's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, specifically Triple H and most specifically Nick Khan. So I can't see that, but I'm just saying, like, we don't know the future of this company. You know what I'm saying? We just don't. And right now, if you're somebody that's in that kind of field of work as far as working for a streaming service, or if you're an owner of like Paramount or something like that, or Netflix, good and hell well, bro, that, if you're a business person, you're going to be looking at every single analytic that AEW has produced in its past 5 to 6 years and wondering if if the juice is worth the squeeze, if it's going to be something that's going to be profitable for that company to keep the likes of an AEW Dynamite or an AEW Collision or their PL or pay-per-views at that. They had to make sure that it's profitable for them as well. So, can I honestly say that AEW has been profitable in the past 2.5 years? Probably not. I honestly, genuinely believe, and this is just me outside the box thinking, that pay-per-view buys are probably one of the main things that's keeping this company afloat right now, to be honest with you. Now, let's say Time Warner doesn't sell, and let's say they don't sell before AEW's contract's up. Is this going to be something where Time Warner and the powers that be in Warner Media are going to give the same amount of money to a Tony Khan and AEW what they got on their last TV deal? If I was working for Time Warner and Warner Media and I was in control of that asset as far as signing them on for a new TV rights deal, man, to be honest with you, I'd be looking at every single metric that AEW has done in the past 5 years and really look into everything, man, because honestly, for what it's worth as a fan, right now, I don't think they're going to get that kind of money deal that they got in their last TV rights deal. And do they deserve that? Yes. They deserve lower money, and the reason why I'm saying that is because they're not producing good television, man. I've been talking to people saying, and a lot of people have been saying that Collision has been better than Dynamite as of late. And Dynamite is their A show. Prime example, I think someone even told me that Tegan Knox, former WWE talent, actually ended up showing up on Collision this past weekend as part of Collision. Okay, great. Awesome. Why are we not seeing her on Dynamite? It's the same way that I feel about Athena. Now, have we seen Athena on Dynamite? Yes, and I'm glad that she's in a tag team tournament. But my standpoint with Athena has been the same. A, she should have always been on Dynamite. And B, she's the only one that's really keeping Ring of Honor afloat right now. Ring of Honor is a dead product, man. I've already given my standpoint on Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is dead. To watch Ring of Honor, it's behind a paywall, and not for nothing, the matches mean jack shit, to be honest with you. I'm just going to keep it a stack. Ring of Honor is nowhere near what it once was before Tony Khan had bought it. Before Tony Khan purchased Ring of Honor was doing great things with great matches, great moments. Since Tony Khan has bought Ring of Honor has been the drizzling shits since he bought that company. And the only reason why he purchased Ring of Honor is because he was a humongous fanboy for Ring of Honor's product before he even bought AEW or what have you. He was a huge fan of Ring of Honor. And not for nothing, I feel like he's destroying the legacy of what Ring of Honor once was, to be honest with you. There's a lot of things with this company that needs to change drastically. I know Tony Khan and AEW had made comments hoping that Swerve would return before the end of the year. I don't know. We don't know how badly he's injured. I damn sure don't want Swerve to return back still dealing with injury and not fully recovered, because I don't want him to come back and get injured again and he's out for another 6 to 8 months to a year. Just because they need someone desperately right now. I'd rather have him fully healed up and he can return and just run roughshod on the AEW roster. I don't want them to force him to come back early because they got nobody else. But to me, honestly, the way things are looking, that's the way it's looking, because they got nobody else. They need to figure it out. So hopefully, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But I think having Samoa Joe versus Adam Page again, man, it's pretty much a remix of what we had at Wrestle Dream. And the only reason why we're getting that is because there's literally nobody else to be a challenger to Adam Page right now, because of the injuries that AEW has sustained now for the past few months. It's hindering the company. Prime example, bro, when is the last time you guys can honestly say you've seen the likes of Keith Lee in AEW? It's been a minute, bro. Wardlow, he just came back, got injured, which I don't know how the hell he injured himself, but he's out again for another 6 to 8 months. You know what I mean? Like Adam Cole, no one knows what is going on with Adam Cole. We know that he possibly suffered a concussion, and he suffered a lot of concussions throughout his career, and now he's kind of, figuring out what he wants to do. But again, it's another big name that is missing from AEW. Swerve and Ospreay. Ospreay being out is a huge gut punch to AEW, absolutely, because not for nothing, to me, Will Ospreay was the ace of AEW. He was the guy, man. Everybody wanted to see Will Ospreay. And because he got injured and had to require neck surgery, he's going to be out for quite some time. If I had to predict when Ospreay's coming back, I would say maybe next spring, 2026, maybe March, April, May, if we're lucky, because he had a serious neck injury, man. He required neck surgery, the same kind of surgery that Copeland had. You know what I mean? Same surgery that Kevin Owens had to go through. So it's especially with a neck injury, man, it's very telling to see if these guys are willing to come back, or these men and women are willing to come back into wrestling, sustaining that kind of injury, man, because it's, a neck injury is no joke. So again, we can also see Will Ospreay come back and probably not see, it might not be the same Will Ospreay, due to the fact that he, sustained a neck injury and had to require neck surgery. I don't know. I really don't know. The other thing too is, where's Kenny Omega? Kenny Omega, for what it's worth, and there's also rumors of speculation that they're going to run it back with Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe for the TNT title, man. I don't want to see that shit. I just don't. I don't. Briscoe is one of those guys, man, where unfortunately he's like the most popular jobber at this point. Like, they're not willing to put him over. Like, he had that one match with MJF, the Tables and Tax match, where he was successful in beating MJF. And after that, they didn't know what else to do with him. I mean, honestly, for what it's worth, Briscoe should have been the challenger to Adam Page at Full Gear, not Samoa Joe. Considering the fact that MJF, in my opinion, is the number one contender to Adam Page's World Heavyweight title, and then you had Mark Briscoe beat basically the number one contender in that Tables and Tax match. So why did we not run it with Briscoe and Page at Full Gear? I would rather have Briscoe lost to Adam Page as the world champion than basically having Mark Briscoe possibly lose to Kyle Fletcher for the TNT title twice. You know what I'm saying? Like, Briscoe's one of those guys, unfortunately, with AEW, that I feel like AEW really doesn't have a plan with him. That they don't really see him as a top guy for AEW. They just don't. They don't see him as AEW World Champion material. I mean, honestly, for what it's worth, as of now, they don't really see him as even TNT Champion material. Now, that could change at Full Gear, but what does that do for Kyle Fletcher? And people were like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by what it does for Kyle Fletcher? Kyle Fletcher should be one of those top 5 guys in AEW. I'm just letting y'all know that now. Guys like Fletcher, Takeshita, MJF, Adam Page. I mean, these are some of the top guys that should be, the top of AEW. Will Ospreay, Swerve. Fletcher is in that conversation, as well as Takeshita. Fletcher and Takeshita are the future of AEW. 100%. 100%. So you have to start investing into that future. Now. Especially now, because here we are into year 6. I mean, some of these guys are going to, at some point, retire. I mean, how many years does Kenny Omega really genuinely have to be an in-ring wrestler on a more productive basis than what he is now? I mean, I think Omega is definitely, I think by now in his 40s. So, I mean, how many years do we really legitimately have left of the likes of Kenny Omega or a Samoa Joe? Hell, even the Young Bucks are getting up there in age. So, I mean, again, you have to start building for the future now, because if you don't, there ain't going to be no goddamn future for AEW. And they're going to close up shop and close doors because they don't know how to build younger talent. That's the problem. I'm going to give you another example of a younger talent that, even though he's not really technically signed with AEW, he has done work with AEW. And I don't think he's in his 40s. And I was impressed with him in that triple threat match with Okada. I forget who. I know it was a triple threat matchup that happened. I think it was at All Out. Mascara Dorada. I think Dorada is incredible. I think a lot of people are saying that he's the next guy past Mystico in CMLL. I think Dorada would be great. I think Dorada is a guy, again, that you can build a future around with the company. And I think CMML, if they were smart, he would be the next guy in line. Dorada is fantastic. Absolutely. Another guy that's had a great year, Bandito. Bandito has had a hell of a year in 2025. And he has a matchup defending the Ring of Honor World title against Mascara Dorada this weekend on Collision. It's going to be a banger match. Guys like Bandito, Fletcher, Dorada, Takeshita, they've had great matches throughout 2025. That's the future of AEW. Hands down. MJF is another guy. MJF is the future of AEW. He's a day one guy. He is the future of this company. If he decides to stay with AEW, which honestly, I mean, I made comments about this before, man. If someone like MJF leaves AEW, it's going to be another humongous gut punch to this company, because there's a lot of people that follow MJF, whether you love him or hate him. You know what I mean? If you see MJF show up on SmackDown or Monday Night Raw, it's, again, a lot of fans from AEW are going to be leaving in droves following MJF's career throughout his tenure in WWE if he decides to sign with WWE. That's what I'm saying, man, because that's going to possibly come down the pike at some point. You got to start building younger stars. That way, when MJF does leave, it's not going to be that immensely of a gut punch now, compared to if you build up younger talent. Like I said, guys like Takeshita, Fletcher, I'm not saying, well, if MJF leaves, but Fletcher, Takeshita, those type of guys that can really take this company and run with it for the next 10 years. And hopefully AEW can look into that and invest in that, because they're going to need to do that. Right now on paper, the major thing that's crippling this company right now is injuries and the lack of creative. And that's the main two things. I mean, I've already made comments about AEW having a lot of resemblance to what WCW 2000 was, and a lot of resemblance of what like All Japan Pro Wrestling was in like the mid 80s to early 90s. Very tournament-based, no storylines. It's pretty much the best versus the best. We're going to put on the best match for the fans. And for some fans, that's what they want. A lot of fans want story, man. They want to know the where, the when, and the why. You can't book this shit like it's All Japan Pro Wrestling. I mean, I think it was even QT Marshall that made comments once he left AEW and came back. But he made comments saying that AEW is getting away from the storyline-based wrestling and looking into a more tournament-based, putting on best matches kind of wrestling. It doesn't work. You can't book this shit like it's New Japan Pro Wrestling, man. It just doesn't work. And my thing is, if you're going to book the best matches, unfortunately, a lot of the guys that you had to book these dream matches are either injured or gone from the company. Look at Bryan Danielson. Danielson's not stepping back in the ring. He's on commentary right now. He was on commentary last night for Dynamite. I don't even know if Danielson's going to even entertain the idea of returning back into the square circle, to be honest with you. It seems like he's happy and complacent being on AEW commentary. To be honest, now that might change. That might change with the likes of, if Taz comes back, maybe Danielson's off commentary. I don't know. Maybe, for all intents and purposes, Bryan Danielson's doing commentary because Taz took some time off. I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying their commentary team is the best. It's not. It's not. But they need to do something that can bring a little bit more spark back to AEW. I don't know if that's a new signing or what. I know there was free agents out there that were floating around, like Dakota Kai, Shayna Baszler. I mean, obviously the elephant in the room being Karrion Kross. I mean, not for nothing, man. I know Tony Khan and AEW are kind of, sketchy as far as signing, more talent. But, man, you need the names. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you can have more storylines. You can have compelling matches with other talent. I mean, imagine Dakota Kai versus Mercedes Moné. Dakota Kai versus, I don't know. I mean, Athena. Dakota Kai versus Toni Storm. Mina Shirakawa. You know what I mean? Britt Baker, depending on when the hell she gets out of, Guantanamo Bay. Who the hell knows? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, man. Could you imagine someone like a Karrion Kross coming in and the mind that he has for the business and the creative mind that he has coming into AEW and having storylines and matches with the likes of Jon Moxley, Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, Darby Allin. Imagine those matches that Kross could have if he had some creative control over his character and his matches and the creative mindset that he has. Oh my God, man. A match with him and Jon Moxley would be absolutely incredible. It would be a brutal, brutal match. But again, a great match. Kross versus Swerve, Page, Omega, Ospreay. Sure. Kross versus Wardlow. Sure. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, you gotta... I don't know. I feel like AEW is missing something. And obviously we all know it's creative and the storylines and stuff like that. But I just feel like they're missing something. They're missing that spark that from what they once had in the first 3 years of AEW's existence. And they need to get that back. They need to go back to the reason why everybody loved professional wrestling. The reason why we all fell in love with AEW. Give back to the fans, man. The reason why you guys are still afloat and still a company is because of the damn fans. You know what I mean? It's like Tony Khan doesn't give a shit about that. Give back to the fans, bro. Go back to what brought you to the dance a little bit. The Young Bucks. Let's go back to the Super Kick Party shit. Why not? You already brought back Being the Elite. Let's bring it back. Have Being the Elite come back. If you want to reunite the original Elite with Page and Omega and the Young Bucks, let's do it. Why not? Let's go back to a little bit of what brought you to the dance. Let's get the Super Kick Party shit going. Why not? You need something. There's already rumors and speculation that Jericho might leave. And look, am I against it? No, because there's nothing left more for Jericho to do in AEW. But again, you're losing another asset to WWE that you once had. And honestly, it was an asset that AEW had that, to be honest, without the likes of a Chris Jericho. I made comments about this the other day. If it wasn't for Jericho, we don't know if AEW would have got on TBS and TNT. I think Jericho was a big-time player in helping AEW get on TV with TNT and TBS and Time Warner. Jericho was a big-time deal. Jericho was a day-one guy for AEW, but he was a big-time draw for AEW, considering his legacy and his history in professional wrestling, whether it's from ECW, obviously WCW, as well as what we all know him from is WWE. Jericho was a huge-time player for AEW, as well as the likes of Cody Rhodes, especially the likes of a CM Punk. CM Punk, I told you guys this before, man. Cody Rhodes might have been the soul of AEW, but CM Punk was Tony Khan's ace in the hole. Tony Khan brought in CM Punk to be the final nail in the coffin to put AEW over WWE as far as being the number one company for professional wrestling in the United States. And we all saw how that backfired and pretty much blew up in his face. And because all that happened and he lost the likes of a Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, once CM Punk walked out the door and all that shit happened, Tony Khan completely changed as a human being. He became a bitter, pissed off little man. But look what CM Punk's doing now in WWE. Look what Cody Rhodes has done since he's returned to WWE. I mean, it's literally night and day. I mean, right now Rhodes is currently the Universal Champion in WWE. CM Punk right now is literally a few days away of possibly walking out of Saturday Night's Main Event as the World Heavyweight Champion. So, I mean, again, bro, it's got to be a swift punch to the gut to Tony Khan to be like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, I had this talent at one time and they fell through the cracks, man. I mean, even other talent. Look at the likes of Ethan Page. Ricky Starks right now is, from what I understand, the current NXT World Heavyweight Champion. And you had no idea what to do with the likes of a Ricky Starks, man. Ricky Starks is a guy that you can build a company around, in my opinion. Ricky Starks should have been TNT champion. He should have been in the conversation for the international champion, or, hell, even the AEW World Championship. But you dropped the ball with Ricky Starks, man. Jade Cargill dropped the ball. Ethan Page dropped the ball. Hell, even Shawn Spears was with AEW at one point. Dropped the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just an endless amount of talent. Hell, look at Brian Pillman. Pillman Jr. He joined NXT and became Lexus King. I'm not sitting here saying that he's having the greatest career over in NXT, but they rebranded Pillman Jr. and look at him now. You know what I'm saying? Pillman came into AEW as a member of the Varsity Club or whatever the hell it was called. It was him, Griff Garrison, and Julia Hart. Look what Brian Pillman Jr. is doing now. Hell, look what Griff Garrison is doing right now. It's a joke. I mean, if we're looking at all three of those individuals in that stable, the best one that came out of that stable was Julia Hart. Look what Julia Hart's doing now. I can say the same thing about Julia Hart as far as her being in the, the Hounds of Hell or the House of Black. I mean, she was a top name in that whole stable. And there's also Brody King, but we haven't seen Buddy Matthews in a while. He's out with injury. Aleister Black or Malachi Black, he left and went back to WWE. You know what I'm saying? I mean, injuries and people leaving this company, it's hurting the company, man. That's just the way it is. And the problem with that is the fact that some talent that become free agents, they're going to use AEW as a crutch. But I think at the end of the day, they don't want to go to AEW because they've heard the horror stories from Tony Khan and how he's dealt with certain talents. I mean, look how he treated Ricky Starks. Look how he's treated specifically Rey Fenix. A lot of people, because, obviously they're not stupid and they can, read between the lines and see what the hell is going on. A lot of people saw how he treated Rey Fenix and the handling of Rey Fenix. And some people are like, you know what? I'd rather work the indies or if I'm released from WWE, I'd rather work the indies than work for the likes of Tony Khan. He left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths after that Rey Fenix shit. I'm telling you that right now. And it's pushing other talent away as far as being free agents. I'm telling you that right now. I mean, Karrion Kross had made comments, even Scarlett made comments, that if they join AEW, it's a lifelong contract. They're not willing to work with anybody else but AEW. You know what I mean? And not for nothing, depending on the situation, I think Tony Khan would be kind of stupid not to entertain the idea of bringing in someone like Karrion Kross and Scarlett. To be honest, why the hell not? The guy has a great mind for the business. He has great storytelling ability. Why not bring in someone like that to AEW? Because they need it. Absolutely need it. And everybody can say, oh, well, they're going to keep bringing in former WWE guys. Bro, who is left? Honestly. And for those people that are saying that, you got to be crazy not to actually have a Karrion Kross in your pro wrestling company. I don't give a damn what wrestling company it is. You'd be crazy to hell not to have the likes of someone like Karrion Kross in your professional wrestling company. I would have signed Kross in a heartbeat. The guy's great. He's very talented. He's got a great mind for the business. Yeah, dude. I mean, he's already talked about matches that he was supposed to have with Bray Wyatt and the ideas that were floating back and forth between him and Bray. And they were supposed to have a match. I mean, and Bray Wyatt, God rest his soul, had a great mind for the business. I mean, look at the characters that he had, bro. The Fiend. You know what I mean? Uncle Howdy. That whole thing that he was doing with Alexa Bliss. I mean, it gelled perfectly together. And that's all from the mindset of a Bray Wyatt, God rest his soul. So, I mean, imagine having the likes of someone like that with a Karrion Kross coming into AEW that has full creative control over his own character. Why not? Why not? Backstage brawl, backstage attack, Kross beats the shit out of Jon Moxley. He's a new guy on the block. Why not? Beats the piss out of Moxley to show that he's a top dog now in AEW. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine that kind of match between Kross and Moxley, bro. It'd be incredible. It'd be absolutely incredible. And that's the shit that AEW needs. And that's the shit that we have to get back to. I'm telling you guys, bro, if we got back to what AEW, even just a little bit, went back to what AEW was doing in the first 3 years of its existence, I'm telling you, bro, this would be a whole different ball game for AEW and the future of AEW for the next 10, 15 years, hands down. But, with that being said, though, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.